Alrighty. Hello and welcome to Cycle Sync and Chisel. We are in, my goodness, week 11 of this whole thing. We've got just one more week after this. That is wild. So wild. Very exciting. This week we are talking about feminine and masculine energies. Okay. You could consider this whole topic a discussion of energetics. And this first little piece right here is a true definition of energetics. So it's a branch of science dealing with the properties of energy and the way in which it is redistributed in physical, chemical, or biological processes. So I think of energetics almost on a daily basis, and I'm kind of a noob when it is coming to this, but I think of like, how am I showing up to any situation, whether it's getting a coffee, getting gas, any exchange with absolutely anyone, of course, with my clients, of course, in this setting, when I'm teaching a Zoom workout class and nobody's actually physically right there in my room, but like, what is my energy through a computer screen to people, right? Because energetics will affect the physical, chemical, or biological processes. There might not be through a screen an effect to the chemical piece, but it could affect neurochemistry, right? And that would be a chemical process. So how we interact with each other is energetics. What energy are you bringing to the space, right? In the Eastern philosophy of Tantra, the masculine energy is called Shiva, and the feminine energy is called Shakti. The universe, this is the belief of Tantra, the universe is created by these energies. So there's Shiva and Shakti, right? And the universe is actually created by these feminine and masculine energies. When we have full engagement in both of these energies, we can have like ultimate wellness, and that would cover physical, emotional, and psychological wellness, right? If we can find a balance between these two energies, we can be closer to a complete like picture of wellness, right? We got the hormone balancing underway, and now it's like it's like a teeter-totter. I said this in class this morning, that I don't know if I should share this now, but I'm just going to go for it. I feel like I always operated very much so in the masculine energy, and over the last few years, and specifically over the last few months, I've really gone this way. And now I'm very much so in the feminine and enjoying it and learning and exploring and kind of just assessing a lot of things that come up for me. But I need to find that balance, right? I need to bring the scale back into balance. So I was here, now I went other side, right? And now I'm slowly making my way back to like, what is it like for those sides to actually feel in balance? And hopefully, I would like to say this, an objective or an outcome of this lecture would be for you to figure out where you are on that scale and what steps you're going to take to get yourself back into a bit more of balance. And also along with like awareness, having awareness of like, ooh, today was like a really masculine driven energy, right? Or today was like, I was super soft and I didn't accomplish anything. And that would be kind of where I fall a lot of times. Anyways, okay. So why do we get out of balance? These energies, again, feminine and masculine, do exist in all of us, right? Some of us can like have one that's totally like out of balance, right? But ultimately they are still all in us, right? So this balance, this out of balance piece happens when we start to focus, or we believe we need to focus on one more than the other. We need to operate out of one more than the other. As females, we've been taught to disassociate from our feminine energy from childhood. I don't know. I think maybe I'm hearing more and more from like, dare I say like modern, but like current parents, that they're trying to teach their children that being in their feminine energy is okay and fully accept that and whatnot. But like, I know that my generation was not taught that. I was taught, be the best you can be no matter what. Be one of the guys, just stick up, stay with the guys, right? Like, how do you keep up with the boys? Be as strong as the boys. It definitely helped that I had two older brothers, right? I was like, that was even more so encouraged. Like, just don't cry, They don't cry, you don't cry. And let's also just acknowledge that everyone should be okay with crying. That's a thing. It's an expression. So this idea that like boys don't cry, and then if you're trying to be tough like a boy, that you shouldn't cry, that's like that's a myth that needs to die. But we fall out of balance because society has pretty much programmed us to not be in touch with our feminine energy. We've been conditioned and led to believe that operating out of a masculine energy, which we'll go through the traits of that, are the best way to succeed, right? As we go through those traits, they're coming up here soon, you'll really start to see that, like, yeah, these are things that I was taught, right? Here we are. So traits of masculine energy. This idea of like, I will do anything to obtain what I desire and what I want. So like when I say a strong pursuit of what is wanted, desired, like it is, I will kill myself. I will drain myself. I will do whatever I need to do in order to make this thing happen. How many of us have led ourselves to burnout? That is masculine energy. That is not taking time to reflect and see what your own personal needs are, right? That is masculine energy. There's a directional force of how, when, where a project grows. So literally each of those pieces is like, I want to say programmed, right? I know exactly how this is going to happen. I know exactly when it's going to happen, and I know where it's going to happen, right? Like type A planning, that's masculine energy, okay? If you're a type A athlete, or I would even say like a type 2 athlete, right? That's the thing. I would say that that's a very masculine energy. And please, let's also discuss this. It's not a bad energy. It's not. It is not a bad energy. Neither one of these energies are bad. And it's even not bad if we're out of balance. I would say when we're out of balance, it'd be a wonderful thing to be able to acknowledge that and bring ourselves closer to balance, okay? With this masculine energy, we are end result focused. So again, no matter what's in my way, I've got dialed in vision. I see the end result, I'm going for it. Masculine energy is an energy that does not like to multitask, again, because they are so laser focused on that end goal that they don't want to fill the picture, the world, anything with other things. It's just dialed in, so dialed in. Again, with masculine energy, there's a lack of reliance on others. This is something I deal with for sure. Like I don't like asking for help, right? That's where I see still I have quite a bit of masculine energy in that field. Like I don't like asking for help because I see that as a sign of weakness, but that is the tale of what I was told. If you ask for help, you're weak, right? That is masculine energy. When we operate out of masculine energy, we tend to set boundaries around our body and our emotions, meaning we don't let anyone in. That's what I mean by that, right? That's not a topic I want to talk about. We don't go there. It's just off limits. There's like pretty, maybe not even like communicated boundaries, but that person won't go there. We won't go there, okay? And the masculine energy does like to relate or engage through entertainment, camaraderie, and socializing. But again, there's that barrier of like, it's almost like, it's not fluff, but like they're happy to entertain the ideas of other people, or maybe perhaps hear a little bit about what's going on with them. But it's more of like, I want to say almost like an avoidant behavior. Like, let's just go out, do this for a little bit, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Fill the void in a way, but not get into like any deep communication. Okay. Traits of the feminine energy. By the way, also this first one, this image here is an image of Shiva, right? Because again, we're in an Eastern philosophy, and then this is Shakti. So traits of feminine energy, magnet. Okay, so when we're operating on the feminine energy, law of attraction certainly applies to us. We literally are magnets. We magnetize everything. Like if we desire something, we pull it right on in, right? It is true. It is factual. That happens. We allow projects to develop organically as they will at their own pace. We are not so set on like a deadline or a timeline. It's just like, we're working through this, and when it comes, it comes. When it comes to fruition, awesome, here it is. Feminine energy is very much so driven by creation. A lot of us who are out of touch with our feminine energy, like ask yourself, when's the last time you painted, when you drew, when you knit something, crocheted, crafted something, whatever it is, whatever, throw clay. When's the last time you allowed yourself to do that? Scribble, right? Feminine energy loves creation. I think of myself oftentimes as like, I used to draw, I used to paint, I do still paint, but not as much. I create programs now, right? It's a different form of creation, but I'm still creating. And I had to, that was a nice acknowledgement for me of like, because I felt very disconnected from my creation, but then I realized that my job is actually creation. So that helped me kind of identify that for myself. In the feminine energy, multitasking is quite possible, happens all the time. It's what we do, right? Multitasking all the time. We can see the big picture. And here are some like socializing pieces, right? Community is super, super important. The idea of surrounding yourself with people who you can listen, or who you want to listen to, or they can listen to you, a nurturing environment where there's lots of sharing. These are things that like the feminine energy really loves. And it allows us to stay open. So instead of with the masculine energy, there being boundaries around emotions and kind of like body things, feminine energy is like, hey, can I tell you something? I like, this is on my mind. I would love your feedback or your support with this. So very like, right, these two energies we're seeing already are quite different, but we all have both of them, right? The author of Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom is Dr. Northrup, and she has this philosophy that the physical symptoms that women experience are actually a result of unconscious beliefs we as women hold. So these ideas that we're weak, inferior, we're less than, we're too much, we're way too emotional, it's all suppression, right? We've all suppressed our feminine energy. I said we all, but many of us have suppressed these things. And she has this philosophy that because of that suppression, we actually like evoke more of like a cyclical discomfort, right? That's a lot of our symptoms are exasperated. If they were like moderate, they're exasperated by this suppression of our feminine energy. And the relation there is that these thoughts are super negative. Like it is us basically continuing to put down our body. I'm weak. I'm inferior. I don't matter. I will never get as far ahead as a man. And yet on the flip side, we're also taught, be just like one of the guys, like you can do it, like, right? And so that's a dissociation from our feminine energy. All of these thoughts greatly influence our bodies, right? Our mind is always observing what our thoughts are, always. And we'll get into this, but like when we have these thoughts, one, we could be dissociating from our bodies, from our feminine energy, but we are also like a breeding ground for negativity. And when we have negativity, the body does not respond well to that. It doesn't, it like almost breeds sickness, right? So this is what I was just trying to get at, but does this influence a deeper layer of betrayal? And again, if a woman began thinking her body was less than, so she was raised to think like, I'm not as good as a boy, I should, stop playing with dolls, I should stop, being creative, I should stop drawing, I should really focus on my academics and this and that, so I can get further along in life. And then she happens to also develop cyclical symptoms or have some type of hormonal imbalance, she's more likely to believe that her body betrayed her. Like, I have become this successful CEO and my body is just betraying me. I am tired all the time. I can't function the way that I used to. Essentially, she's in burnout, right? But there's this idea that her body is betraying her. And as we've learned through this idea of cycle syncing, it's not realistic to be able to go at 100% all the time. It's just not, it will lead to burnout. So this is that incorporation of, if we actually are in partnership, let's say, with our feminine energy, if we started to accept that that can actually be a part of us, we are less likely to head down the road of burnout because we aren't so much in the masculine energy, right? And again, we'll get into this in a little bit, but this acceptance of, I am female, I have feminine energy, I've suppressed it. So this is going to be weird for a while, but like, how do I start to like get a little bit more familiar with my feminine energy? This, like, these new ideas, how does that soften basically everything, right? How does it diminish? How are the cyclical symptoms affected by that? How, if there's some type of hormonal imbalance, does a few months of just practicing incorporation of more feminine energy, does that change things? Likely it will, which is wild. Okay, the reason I chose her, we'll talk about in a second. Okay, so we are not men, we are creators of life, right? Creatrix, I love that term, but we are creators of life, whether we choose to procreate or not. Our natural essence is creation. Like our essence is to create. We have to have a deep talk with ourselves. We have to have this discussion of like, am I going to stop with this like very loud inner critic and really become the best cheerleader around for myself? Am I going to catch myself having these negative thoughts of like, I need to be performing at my greatest ability, my greatest capabilities all the time? Or are we going to like allow ourselves to kind of follow this idea of, okay, I ebb and flow with my cycle? Imagine if as little girls, we never went down the road of like, I am less than, I am not worthy, I am not as good as any boy. What if as little girls, we thought we were just little badasses, but like badasses who could still be completely in their feminine energy, right? I think this would be a totally like a big game changer if from a young age we were taught that being a little girl and being creative and being somebody who like trusts her intuition, that's the big piece, right? Trust your intuition. And if we were taught that those things were okay and actually encouraged to like really dig in and pursue those, I think we'd all end up a bit different at this point in our lives. So by making peace with our feminine energy, we can truly come full circle. And this is where like we kind of think of all the steps of cycle syncing. Alyssa Vitti has like designated this energetics part as kind of the final piece of her protocol. Instead of a 4-piece protocol, it's a 5-piece protocol because of this feminine energy piece. And she does specifically designate it as like becoming more in tune with your feminine energy because so many women operate more out of their masculine. And again, I've been studying this for a little bit, so I feel like I'm now like a little bit more in my feminine, but there's still definitely pieces of me that are in my masculine energy. But maybe you'll find that that happens with you as well. But again, her view on this is that most of us operate out of masculine, and so how do we bring in more of the feminine? When we are heavily operating out of our masculine energy, we tend to be very disconnected from our cycle, right? We might not have tracked or ever tracked or even know a thing about our cycle, right? Again, I didn't know before I decided to like embark on this path. And when we are disconnected from our cycle, again, we're going to be more likely to be overworked, right? So our adrenals, we're going to like be fueling with caffeine and sugary things. And so our blood sugar is going to be off. And we just have this like cycle that we have talked about now for 11 weeks. And we are going to be more apt to be out of sync and have hormonal issues and cyclical symptoms and all of these things. When we are more in our masculine energy, those things are going to be more prominent. Absolutely, 100%. As I can say, when you're more in your feminine energy, you might not be as productive. Okay, so there's like There's an upside to both and a downside to both. But this is a piece that really clicked for me. Working with our feminine energy allows us to be more proactive rather than retroactive. So maybe perhaps when you started this course, you were retroactive. These things were happening for you, right? And now you have the tools and you can now start to make changes. Here's the thing. Now you have the knowledge. If you operate in the feminine, you're going to be way more aware of your body, way more aware of your body. And now you can be proactive. Oh, wow, I just felt my blood sugar dip. Or even this, how about this? Let's back it up a little bit. I always have snacks on hand because I know that I tend to have, or I'm still learning how to regulate my blood sugar. I always have snacks on hand, right? At some point, maybe I won't need them, but right now I'm still learning how to regulate my blood sugar. So I always have snacks on hand. Easy. Or I know that 5 days out from every single bleed, I am the most emotional that I am all throughout the month. I don't have patience for people. I get definitely irritable. It's only for that one day, and it's actually not even for the full day, but this is the day. Maybe then you start planning that 5 days out from every single cycle, every single period, you put less on your calendar. It's for one day, right? That's us being proactive. How beautiful is that, right? Another proactive piece would be the printouts that we had of like foods to incorporate for each part of your cycle. Just acknowledge right now that if you've already been doing that, that's you being proactive. That's you prepping. That's you looking into the future and being like, I want to feel the best I possibly can. These are foods that are going to help me balance my hormones. So I am an active participant in this and I make the choice to step into this, right? That's huge. That is us being proactive. There will still be times where we're retroactive because we're still learning, right? We're not going to get it right away. But that proactive piece is huge. And another piece that really clicked for me is this idea that when we tune in more to our feminine energy, we are actually in a partnership with our bodies instead of a battle. So again, when we're in that masculine energy, we tend to have a story that our body has failed us, or, oh, I got to deal with this fucking bleed again, or, oh, like we have this negative energy, this negative story around our bodies, and it literally is a battle. And again, energetics, beyond masculine and feminine energy, when you're in a battle with your body, you might not be aware of it, but you are showing up in a pretty icky energy to the rest of the world. You are. And I know that because I did it for such a long time. And in reflection, I like almost want to apologize to all the people that I showed up like in a shitty mood to, because I was just dealing with my own headspace, all revolving around my body and my hate for my body and how my body I thought was failing me and whatnot. So how beautiful of a process would that be, that if that's currently you, what if you are like making your way towards this beautiful partnership instead of a lifelong battle, right? That's pretty cool. That's actually really, really cool. And I can say that because again, I'm more in a partnership, a loving partnership instead of a battle at this point. So how would we know that we are having, besides hormonal issues and cyclical symptoms, and maybe already identifying some things from the list earlier, how would we know that we have signs of excess masculine energy? So if you're not able to connect with your body, like you really like can't even like tap into your body, that would be a sign. And then also if you're avoiding emotions, or maybe not even avoiding, but not able to identify how you're feeling, right? Not having a word to describe exactly how you're feeling, right? Those would be signs of just being a little bit more in the masculine energy. Somebody who has very little self-worth revolving around them, but has attached self-worth to material things or to achievements, that's going to be masculine energy. I still to this day, for sure, have a bit of that. Absolutely. And also, let's bring that back a step. That could also be cultural conditioning, right? There's a bit of that. All of this is cultural conditioning, this idea that we should be operating in the masculine energy. A lot of us are taught, you are worthy because you achieved this. You are worthy because you got this promotion. You are worthy. You're such a badass because you have this car, right? Labels we're taught mean something. we're taught that like if you have this label, you're better than this person who has this label. So just building awareness around that and what is your attachment to those things. And then this relates a little bit to our topic last week in regards to libido, but if we are operating more out of masculine, we're less likely to be able to receive. And so that would be in the bedroom for sure. But also it could be like your friend wants to buy you a coffee and you're like, no, or they want to buy you dinner and it's like $100. Your portion was $100. You're like, no, that's too much. Let me like, right. This inability to receive can be a sign of masculine energy, right? And also giving in a nurturing way, right? So like hugging, and this definitely happens in my family, hugging and not really touching, but just like a tap on the back, that would be masculine energy, right? Like, are you able to like fully like hug and hold somebody for 10 seconds, right? Does that make you super uncomfortable? If so, just like a bit of examining or assessing or reflection on that of like, what is coming up for me? Why does this feel weird? Yeah, those are examples of excess masculine energy. Okay, so here's a fun piece. This is a little quiz. If you have a piece of paper, just write down, I think there's 5 or 6 of these. For each of them, write down either M or F, so masculine or feminine, okay? And we're just going to use this quick little quiz to see where you tend to fall. So in the morning, if you're operating on a masculine energy, if this feels like you, then just write that M down. And conversely, if the feminine energy that I described sounds like you, just write an F down. So masculine, you wake up and you're like, goals are firing through your head and you're just like, this is what's happening today. I know it. It's just like your goals are already like rocketing on your mind. You follow a schedule to a T. There is no breaking that schedule at all. Your morning routine is your morning routine. Everything has to happen as it does day after day. And when you get to work or when you get to your first destination, you tend to have this piece of like, I don't even know how I got here. Like, what happened on that car ride? Like, did I talk to somebody? I don't, right? That would be masculine energy. Feminine, you wake up and it's like a nice, like more calm morning. You could still wake up with an alarm, right? But you initially check in with yourself, like, all right, how am I feeling? Am I still sleepy? Like, what's going on in my head? You tend to give yourself some form of self-care. And I would say in the morning, yes, that could be like kind of pampering things, but it could also be meditation. It could be journaling. And this isn't to say that masculine does it, but like the feminine energy would be like, what do I need today? Whereas masculine, you'd be like, okay, I've done this one, and now I go to this, which is journaling, and then I'm going to put the clothes away, right? Masculine has a list. Feminine is like, at this moment, I'm going to make my coffee. Next, I don't know, the sun's out there. Kind of want some sun on my face. Let me go outside for a little bit, right? That's more feminine. If you're in a household with others, in the feminine energy, you're going to be more likely to communicate with those around you and to just be like, hey, I hope you have a good day, right? In like a really loving, nurturing way. And you really do truly base your day off of how you feel, right? Again, not abiding to a list, but how do I feel? That's going to dictate how this day goes. When we come to midday, masculine is stuck to that to-do list. There are no breaks from it. So whatever's on that to-do list, they keep on just going through. Very much so focused on getting that task done. So they will continue to motivate themselves and anyone who's involved in that project to make sure it gets done. Meanwhile, the feminine energy, again, is still in that flowy state of like, am I tired? Do I need a little nap? I'm going to allow myself to take a nap, right? Feminine energy can always see big picture. The difference though, so big picture or goal, the difference though is that the feminine would be like, okay, so here's the big picture. Today I feel like I'm able to accomplish this, right? There's a flowiness to it. Where am I at? How's my body feel? Where's my headspace at? Who on my team? Like, who am I working with? This is what's capable for today. That's going to be more of the feminine energy. When it comes to socializing, we discussed this, but like the masculine energy will have a guard up. Nobody's going to know what's going on in the background. Home life, like personal issues that are going on, there's a hard boundary around that. They're going to internalize their problems, just kind of keep them to themselves. They don't need anyone else to solve their problems. They'll do it on their own. Meanwhile, the feminine energy is more of an open book. In that social setting, if there's something going on and they trust somebody, they're going to be like, hey, can we talk about something? Can you help me? Like, I need your support with this. That's going to be more of the feminine energy. And maybe they might just be an open book with complete strangers. That's possible too, but that's going to be more of that feminine energy. When it comes to food, masculine energy can stick to a diet plan with such rigidity, it's unreal, right? Whatever's presented to them, they will eat. It's in front of them, awesome, they're going to eat it. That could be on a diet plan or not, but it's almost like a thoughtless thing, right? There is no checking in with themselves. It's like, there's food, I'm going to eat it, right? They also forget to eat because they're so goal driven with work and any projects. They do tend to forget to eat. Feminine energy though, this is where like proactive, okay, I'm having trouble with my blood sugar, so I always have snacks. That would be an example of that feminine energy. I'm going to be at work all day and I know I'm not going to have time to step away. So I need to have easy to digest or easy to access items that I could sip, say, in between meetings, right? That's going to be feminine energy. They're also likely to actually check in with their body. Am I hungry? Am I full? I feel nauseous. What is that from? Oh, I'm anxious, right? That's going to be more of that feminine energy. In terms of exercise, it's very similar to food. So feminine energy, they could have a goal, a body or fitness goal, and the routine is selected, the program is selected, and they just stick to it no matter what. Every single day, they could be dead. They could be so stressed out, so dead, and they stick to that plan. They show up, they do it no matter what. Meanwhile, that feminine energy is going to literally check in with herself daily and be like, how do I feel? What's realistic? How can I show up? Where am I at my cycle? What stress am I under? How did I fuel myself? These are questions I ask my class every single morning, right? How did we fuel within the last 24, 48 hours? Where's our stress level at? Where are we at in our cycle? Those are 3 questions I ask myself and my clients before every single session. And then being okay, this is the other important piece. Feminine energy would be okay with moderating that plan to fit them where exactly they are that day. Okay, that's the important piece. Partnership. I find this funny because I definitely feel like I operate very much so in partnership in the masculine energy, because I am basically the first one. I want to just be like, oh, this is what happened today, and now peace out. I don't want to talk. Can we just snuggle? Can we just like lay on the couch, please? Just can you shush? That is so me at the end of the day. But when I look at that in my own reflection, I am very in my feminine energy with my clients all day. So that's maybe a piece of what goes on there. I'm still trying to learn that about myself. Meanwhile, the feminine energy wants to deeply connect, wants to really kind of ask, just talk about how that person and themselves are feeling. Not just what was accomplished that day, but like, how did the day feel? Or what's coming, like just things that are coming up. I think that's the end of the quiz. So just ask yourself, look at how many M's did you have? Do you have more M's? Do you have more F's, more feminine or more masculine? And that's just going to be a little reflection, right? Like, what are you operating more of? And those are just examples of questions to ask ourselves, right? Those are like kind of things that happen for most of us most days. So how do we show up in those situations, right? What energy do you tend to operate out of? Without judgment, what energy do you tend to operate out of? If you found that you were heavier in one than the other, what steps can you take to bring yourself more into balance, right? So if you are operating more out of the masculine, taking a look back at those traits of the feminine energy, are you allowing yourself time with community? Are you allowing yourself time with those that you love, even outside of partnership, right? Are you opening up to those outside of your partnership? Are you opening up to your partner? Do you find yourself guarded? Do you find yourself with a boundary of like, hey, I don't talk about that, right? And I think a good one is that reflection specifically to partnership, again, whether it's a girlfriend, like a friend, or your romantic partner, if there is a situation where like there's something that you don't talk about, is that because of a trauma or a bad experience with that person, or is that actually how you tend to relate with those close to you, right? Is that just a specific individual where you're guarded, or does that actually trickle to all your relationships? I think that's a very important reflection. I think that's what we have here for slides. Yes. Okay. So usually this last slide says homework, but this week it says reflection. So this would be the homework task to ask yourself, to observe, how are you showing up? In what energy, right? No judgment. And please know that there is a time and a place to be very much so in your masculine energy, right? But if we're operating in that all the time, that's not going to be the best. Likewise, if we're in the feminine energy all the time, that's also not going to be the best. There's got to be this balance. That's what we're seeking. We're seeking to find some sort of balance between the two. Something that did not make it onto these slides for today is this idea of like, how do you incorporate this with like work life? So this idea of, we learned in the beginning that each phase of our cycle produces like a certain type of energy, or we can kind of gear our productivity and our communication skills and whatnot based on like where we are. So when we start off, say we start this, start of the month, that would be the first week, wherever it is. The first week would be a fantastic phase to initiate new projects. Okay. That's reflection, or matches up with, inspired by your follicular phase. So newness, right? We learned last week with libido. Follicular phase is a time of like, hey, I want to try stuff that's new, whether that's in the bedroom or not, but like newness. So initiating new projects, right? Okay. Second week, that's going to be collaboration and brainstorming. That is inspired by your ovulatory phase. Okay. Third week, that's like take a peek, review reports, operations, check in on customer service if that's something that you've got going on. This is all luteal phase inspired. Not quite full reflection and assessment, but like just kind of checking in, like what little last bits need to be tied up. Where can I make little tiny improvements, not overload the system, but just like little improvements. That fourth week is menstrual inspired, right? And that's going to be the reflection. What worked, what didn't, and also beginning to plan ahead, right? So it's really an evaluation week. And again, that is a way for females to incorporate their feminine energy in the workplace. How do you match this up with a big corporation? I still don't fully know, right? You'd have to get everyone on board. But if you could start to reflect on like, okay, here we are, start of the project. Let me bring in my energy of excitement around new projects. This would be, again, how do I support myself in the follicular phase? Could you bring in some of those principles? If it was so happened to be matched up with actually your follicular phase, that would be wonderful. But chances are it's not going to be. But everything in our lives has a cycle. So pairing it in this idea of like initiation, brainstorming, review, and then evaluate, right? That's a great way to go about things. It truly is. It's a fantastic way to go about things. That's it for today. I think we wrapped up. There was this one last piece, principles of feminine energy. I'll try to incorporate it into next week's lecture. There's 7 principles. These are not my own principles, but these are Elisa's principles. And I'll read off the titles, but each of these principles, what I really like about this is each of these principles has a mantra. And I think this is a fantastic process to re-familiarize yourself with your feminine energy if you feel very disconnected with it. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I tend to do a mirror thing in the morning. There's always some statement, some affirmation on the mirror to help kind of guide me for that day. I'm considering writing these on the mirror. I'd have to get some bigger notepads because some of them are pretty long, but I'm again not going to read the mantras right now. I'll just read the title of each one. So the first one is the principle of living in harmony with my biochemistry and self-care. Okay, this idea of living in harmony with my biochemistry and self-care. Second one, the principle of 360-degree emotional expression. Allowing yourself to feel anything and everything. Not boxing anything up because you were told you don't cry, can't be angry, hold your shit together. No, complete 360 acknowledgement and acceptance of our emotions. Number 3, principle of pleasure. And this is in all realms, allowing ourselves to feel pleasure through food, through sex, through self-pleasure, through laughter, through the beauty of images, through mountains, allowing ourselves to feel pleasure. Really allowing ourselves the space and time to soak something up. I walked by sunflowers the other day and I was like, I was on the walk with Penny and I walked by them and I was like, what are you doing? Those were beautiful. Like, you just walked by something that like literally is so epic. Go back. And I went back and I like allowed myself to soak up the beauty of those sunflowers and like really examine them, and went down this whole path of like, wow, the bees have eaten this and this, and right? It was just this whole pleasurable experience. Number 4, the principle of leadership. We have voices, we need to use them, right? Stop playing small, use your voice, stand up. That would be a bit of that masculine piece, but it can also be done in a very feminine fashion. Number 5, the principle of conscious collaborative relationships. So not just being I want to say a peg, but really showing up consciously in relationships, all relationships, intimate, friendship, families, being a conscious participant in those relationships matters tremendously. Speaking your truth matters tremendously. How you feel matters, to speak on it. Number 6, the principle of receiving. Big one. Can you graciously receive? If a woman compliments you, if anyone, I choose to practice this very much so with women because sometimes I just feel like men are hitting on me and that feels different. But when a woman compliments me, for the longest time, I would deflect. I would put it right back. Oh, you look so great too. And I got real awkward for a while because I would start to say that and I'd be like, I'm sorry. I'm trying to learn how to accept compliments and thank you. I would just like stop myself mid-sentence of like, oh no, you look so, thank you. I'm working on this process right now of receiving. Thank you. And that was all I would say. And it was so fucking awkward for so long. It was very, very hard for me to do that one. But now I can do it and it feels really good. It does. It feels very, very good. So the principles of receiving. Number 7, the last one, is the principle of being my own authority. So really, this one is about making choices that honor your body, honor your mind, honor your soul. You literally are the driver. So are you honoring your body, your mind, your soul? Are you making choices that support you no matter where you are, how you showed up that day, how you woke up that day, supporting yourself, right? Yeah, those are huge. I wish they had made it onto the lecture, but they'll probably be in the edits. And if not, just so you know, they'll be in future renditions, but really, really important pieces. I could see that being like a little power deck that you pull a card each day of these principles and just let it lead you for the day. Well, fantastic. We're wrapping up. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording for today. If you do have any questions, please reach out, of course. Feedback still welcome all the time. And again, go back to that last slide, the reflection slide, and really just ask yourself, you don't even need to go back to it, but like just start to recognize, build awareness around how you're showing up. A big one that I see in the fitness world and in my training with clients is, specifically, I'm going to speak on women who do not know how to do less. That is masculine energy. And I understand all the fears wrapped around this idea of doing less. If I do less, my body's going to get soft. If I do less, I'm less than. If I do less, I'm not going to be as fit. There's all these stories, but I literally see women burn out all the time because they just don't know how to do less. And just know that if you do less every once in a while, you can actually do more when you can actually go, and it's those peaks and then this rest period, or peaks and like not even rest, just like tapering back a bit, that allow us to actually get stronger and to fuel our bodies with energy that it brings such vitality to us, right? I see so many women unable to say no. I've just got to crush. I've just got to do this. And eventually they do learn, but I would rather it happen sooner for them. Yeah. So just reflect on that. If you want to go down that road, specifically, how do you show up in your workouts? Is it, I have to just complete this no matter how shitty I feel? Or do you offer yourself space? Right? Really, really important. Scary. I get it, because I was that, but just reflect. Okay, I'm going to end the recording. And here we are. Perfect. I'll stop the share.